Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating history and, honestly, the hard science behind what truly makes a brand unforgettable. We see brands everywhere, every single day, right? But only a rare few actually stick in our minds and drive us to talk about them. So today, we're unpacking exactly why that happens.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the purple cow phenomenon.
To really get this, we kind of have to step way back to 1895 and look at a pretty bizarre cultural phenomenon. You might have actually heard this before. It's a wildly popular, albeit completely nonsensical poem by an American writer named Gillette Burgess, and it became an absolute sensation. In fact, it was the most quoted poem in 20th century America, right behind The Night Before Christmas. It was just incredibly sticky. It completely lodged itself in the public's brain. It's crazy to look at how this concept actually evolved over the decades. It literally starts as an 1895 poem, jumps into the culinary world in the 1930s as a literal purple cow ice cream float made of grape soda and vanilla ice cream. Then decades later in 2003, marketing visionary Seth Godin used it as the title of his incredibly famous business book. And finally, that brings us to rigorous academic validation in 2019. And that evolution leads us right to our ultimate destination today, a 2019 paper published in the Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services by researchers Walter Weimer and Reza Cassidy. What they did was take this abstract idea of a standout brand and scientifically deconstruct the exact psychology of what makes it so strong. But hey, before we hit that heavy science, we absolutely have to acknowledge Seth Godin's core theory from his 2003 book. Godin argued that in a cluttered market, traditional advertising is just failing. Your product has to be intrinsically different. It needs to be a true purple cow to stand out. You literally have to be remarkable. But that raises a massive question for businesses. What does it actually mean to be a strong, remarkable brand in a measurable, scientific way? Which brings us to Section 2, the illusion of brand strength. So how do you actually measure if you've built a purple cow? What does brand strength really mean when you strip away all the marketing jargon? Well, the crucial point here is that traditional business thinking is fundamentally flawed. Historically, people just equated a strong brand with high sales and huge market share. But the 2019 research argues that high sales do not inherently equal a strong brand. True brand strength isn't a financial metric at all. It lives entirely in the psychological perception of the target audience. It's all about what's happening inside the customer's mind. To prove this, the researchers point to a brilliant example. Think about an electricity monopoly. Your local power company probably has massive market share and nearly 100% customer retention, right? Under the old rules, that's a wildly strong brand. But if customers think the service is mediocre and totally overpriced, the brand is actually incredibly weak. The second a competitor arrives, that massive market share would just absolutely plummet. Because of that, Weimer and Cassidy officially define brand strength not by the cash register, but by 3 distinct psychological dimensions held by the audience. You must be well known, you must be perceived favorably, and you must be perceived as remarkable. If you're missing even one of these, your brand is vulnerable.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3, the 3 brand pillars.
To make these pillars really stick in our heads, let's bring back that delicious 1930s ice cream float we talked about earlier. Just like a purple cow float needs the solid base of vanilla ice cream, the sweetness of grape soda, and that magical fizzy reaction when they combine, a strong brand requires 3 ingredients: brand familiarity, brand attitude, and brand remarkability. Let's break those down. First up is our vanilla ice cream base. Familiarity. The research points out that a target group has to know enough about the brand to even be able to assess its merits and compare it to alternatives. It is the absolute foundation. I mean, if they don't know you, they can't judge you. Next, we've got the sweet grape soda, brand attitude. This one's critical because you can be incredibly well known but still intensely disliked. The researchers use the example of a famous, but let's say churlish professional athlete. They have sky-high familiarity, but terrible attitude. For a brand to be strong, a positive, favorable attitude from the audience is absolutely essential. And finally, the fizzy reaction, remarkability. This is that comparative quality. It's the moment the audience looks at your brand, looks at all the competitors, and decides if you are genuinely superior or extraordinary. This is exactly where you transcend from just being a good option to being the purple cow. So, how do we build this? Let's look at Section 4, the ingredients of familiarity. What's super interesting here is how the researchers mapped out the exact real-world ingredients or antecedents that create this familiarity.
Consumers rely on the recency and longevity of the info they get, how often they see your logo, observing other people using your brand, and most importantly, their own personal experience with your product. But the science proves there's a heavyweight champion here: direct personal brand experience. Actually using the brand creates sensory memories that interact with our moods and emotions, and that exerts a far greater influence on familiarity than just seeing a billboard or watching a commercial on TV. Similarly, shaping your audience's attitude requires positive, direct experiences and favorable information, but it also relies heavily on positive referrals from others. And, fascinatingly, even the broader reputation of the industry you operate in plays a major role in how much they actually like you. But remember, familiarity, that vanilla ice cream, is the absolute prerequisite catalyst. The researchers make it very clear that without a foundational level of familiarity, an individual cannot possibly develop an attitude or assess how remarkable your brand is compared to others. It all starts right there with awareness and knowledge. All right, let's tie this all together in Section 5, the ultimate outcome: word of mouth. So, what happens when you get that perfect blend of those three ingredients? The research reveals a direct, highly predictable chain reaction. High brand strength naturally creates deep brand preference over your competitors. And that preference, it acts as a mediator that directly drives our ultimate outcome. And that ultimate outcome is word of mouth, the holy grail of all marketing, right? When consumers are deeply satisfied, impressed, and hold your brand as a purple cow in their minds, they become highly motivated to basically do your marketing for you. They'll recommend your brand to everyone they know. Which actually brings us full circle to a pretty brilliant piece of historical irony. Just 2 years after Gelett Burgess wrote his famous Purple Cow poem, it generated so much word of mouth that he literally wrote a follow-up poem expressing how much he grew to hate it. People just would not stop quoting it to him. But from a business perspective, that unstoppable, viral sharing is exactly what you want. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take this academic framework and put it to work. Look at your own business, or even just your favorite products, through the lens of this science. Are you building deep familiarity, a highly favorable attitude, and true remarkability? Ask yourself, is your brand a true purple cow or just another vanilla float waiting to be forgotten?